All right, thank you, Janita. As Janita's mentioned, Danny and I work together across the public sector patch. We look after local councils and also higher ed and utility companies. Without further ado, let me just jump to the next slide. Yep. So I'd like just to talk about how the data intelligence platform on Databricks is often used for local councils, or what we are actually seeing on the field when we interact with a variety of different customers with different use cases. The slide we have here really just illustrates how Databricks enables local councils to drive data convergence and to be able to democratize that AI piece across scale, across all your core functions as well. Typically, what we see with a lot of local councils, if you look at the left-hand side, we'll see a broad spectrum of data sources that are very typical. You've got things like IoT and telemetry for maybe smart bins or traffic sensors. You have ERP and finance systems. You also have CRM and ticketing for resident interactions. We also often see GIS and spatial data, which Danny will be touching on in a short while, all the way to your asset registers and things like your demographic assets as well. So councils often struggle to unify these, but Databricks really helps you to bring them all together in that one seamless environment. Really at the core of our architecture is the lakehouse. It's secured and governed by the likes of our data governance solution called Unity Catalog. So meaning this enables all your structured, unstructured, your historical, your real-time data to be able to be accessed with that trust and confidence, whether, regardless of the data formats that actually come through and what you're using underneath. So sitting on top of that lakehouse is our full, what we call the data intelligence platform, where you can actually operate as 100% serverless as well for complete simplicity and scalability. We also give you the controls, like AJ's mentioned, so that cost management piece, disaster recovery, enterprise security, a lot of things that are typically top of mind and big concern for local councils. So the platform really drives value for a variety of different users. You've got Mosaic AI that powers your machine learning and generative AI that lets you enable things like forecasting, planning, automated insights. You also have Databricks SQL that gives you that sort of governed reporting and dashboarding for staff at all levels. You've got workflows and DLT, which help you to handle ETL streaming analytics so you can operationalize these insights very quickly. And then finally, you have AI BI, which is something I'll be doing a demo of shortly. This really brings that business intelligence to everyone across the entire organization, regardless of your technical background, regardless of your persona. So we do this through a native dashboarding capability to natural language and self-service analytics. And then finally, on the right, you can see how this unified approach supports that really important outcome for local government. You get to support use cases such as smart urban planning, development. You get better service delivery and citizen experience. We see it used a lot in terms of sustainable resourcing, so financial management, resource allocation, and budgeting. Beyond that also, I think a lot of a North Star for local councils today, speaking to a lot of you, is smart city operations and livability. So, being able to combine all of that and power that with a secure, intelligent platform. So Databricks, I think, in summary, really gives councils the tools to unify that data, to turn a lot of that siloed data into smarter services, to enable that strategic decision making, so you can really impact community while actually keeping your governance and your costs firmly in control. All right. So again, I think every community that you serve is unique. They have a variety of different councils who are here today. So really the question is, why rely on generic or one-size-fits-all solutions from providers that maybe don't really know your local needs? With the data intelligence platform, you really can cater and tailor a lot of these components that I just spoke about with the variety of tools and tool set that I just described. So with Unity Catalog, with your ETL capability of Lakeflow pipelines, full-fledged machine learning and agentic capabilities on the platform, and also us being able to support real-time streaming use cases. So just to reiterate, I think data and AI really transforms every stage of that local council lifecycle so that you can really get those strategic outcomes. We start with that Citizen 360, with councils being able to then provide residents with things like access to portals where they can request for services, for benefits and support. You also get a unified view that lets your staff serve citizens better with context-rich profiles. You also have predictive maintenance that helps you leverage things like real-time data and analytics, so you can schedule maybe things like timely repairs, upkeep for roads and vehicles in public buildings. We move on to more proactive care workflows where you can use geolocation or sensor data to maybe proactively, alert residents or local works about potential hazards, very much like Melbourne today. or the strong winds we're going to be having, or even in Sydney, the heat wave, right? So being able to improve that communication and trust between the council and its residents. You also have urban planning and strategic development that can rely on data-driven analysis for community trends and assets to guide smart and equitable growth of your investments. And finally, financial sustainability, which really lets councils model things like budgets and forecasts. Given the time and budget constraints that you face, it's really important to be able to optimize resource allocation so that you can get that long-term service delivery for the community. Right. Without further ado, what I'll do is I'll actually jump into one of the components that I talked about earlier and I alluded to. So AIBI is a self-service sort of capability that's available on the platform. Then that I think we've seen a lot of success with many councils and also just apart from also not just the public sector in general, even in higher education, utilities, something that our customers have really gained a lot of insight and a lot of benefit from using some of these tools. So every enterprise wants to be able to democratize data and AI for all their employees, but I think really to be able to compete and innovate, organizations need to move beyond restricting data and AI to just technical teams. When every employee can access and use data and tools, whether they're in operations or sales or marketing, you want to be able to always proactively be able to spot trends and solve problems so that you can make better decisions without having to wait on for technical support. So the reality is that BI tools often come with another data silo. So every system typically will end up with its own set of data sets, definitions, or governance rules. That means teams often try to spend time trying to keep everything in sync, where some groups might even have to buy extra BI licenses just to access or share the right data. So performance can also be a big challenge here. A lot of teams are often forced between having to choose between extracting data for speed and running direct queries. This can be very slow and frustrating as your data sets grow. And then if you bolt on an AI assistant to your BI layer, then that value then tends to become quite limited as well. These assistants only know what's already been curated inside of the BI system, and usually lack that deeper context and understanding of the underlying data platform. So Databricks is in a very unique position to offer a BI solution that's built directly on the same platform where your data lives. First of all, it's because of that unification of architecture. Janita previously mentioned because we have that lakehouse architecture, there's really no need for you to maintain separate environments for analytics, for reporting, or for machine learning. So meaning that your data governance, your security, your business logic really only needs to be managed once in the one place, meaning that there's a less likelihood for your policy to, for things like policy drift or inconsistency between your data as it moves between tools. It also allows for very fast performance at scale. Your performance remains very consistent even as your volumes of data grows because Databricks has really been designed for large-scale analytics from day one. It's also going to be able to give you intelligence that's very context-aware. So our Databricks AI understands not just tabular data, but also the relationships and lineage, as well as business patterns that then present itself throughout the organization. Your queries and insights can take context from how data was actually used, as opposed to static schemas. So you can get more relevant, more accurate answers, especially when requirements are changing very quickly. Right, so this really deeper knowledge about AI can then support real business scenarios as opposed to relying on one-size-fits-all results that might work in demos but really struggle in production when you're trying to scale them. So AIBI is our AI-powered business intelligence offering, hence the name. It has two complementary capabilities, dashboards and what we call Genie rooms. So dashboards is our native dashboarding capability. You can think about it as sort of our answer to a Tableau or Power BI. It's a low-code experience to help analysts be able to build highly interactive visualizations that allows you to interact with it via natural language. So it's supercharged with your AI functionalities. It makes data very much accessible to non-technical users. Genie, on the other hand, is our conversational analytics tool that lets business users then talk to their data and ask questions and self-serve their own analytics. One of the strengths of this approach is that our AI BI capability works natively with Unity Catalog semantics. So instead of every dashboard or report having to redefine metrics in its own way, you only need to define a single set of measures or dimensions and relationships within the Databricks platform. So these definitions will then flow automatically into every AI BI dashboard or Genie space, or even any SQL client. So everyone is sort of working from that same baseline. To reiterate, what makes this different is the central governance aspect. So every metric, dimension, and business rule is maintained in one place. this includes things like certifications, data access policies. They're automatically apply anywhere the data is used. Right. But while a good dashboard answers many questions, right, so a dashboard can sort of answer a lot of very pertinent questions for an organization. You really can only anticipate a very small amount of the questions that users ask. So imagine you're a data analyst working in a local council. You're attending a weekly executive meeting, and your boss turns to you and says, "We've noticed a sharp rise in service requests over the weekend. So can you tell me how many of these came from residents who have contacted us before versus first-time users?" Then they might ask you to break it down by suburb or by the service type. So which neighborhood saw the biggest jump? What were the top issues or services requested? They might ask you about trends. How can you ensure that we have the right resources in place in the future to respond to these residents faster and during the next holiday period, for example? It's a common pain point for a lot of council analysts. So being expected to answer and drill down to questions on the spot, to turn around quickly, give follow-ups, and translate the data into clear actions for community impact. So these are very dynamic and layered questions that are posed every single day, but a lot of dashboards aren't actually pre-built to answer those. You really can only bake in pre-canned answers into dashboarding tools. I think behind the scenes, BI developers, data analysts, you're all expected to deliver very flexible and interactive dashboards that can evolve quickly with these questions. So, but really, what if you could talk to your data? That is where the AI BI Genie capability comes in, right? So for this exact reason, Databricks has built AI BI Genie. Genie is, as I've mentioned before, a conversational analytics tool that literally lets you talk to your data. So instead of relying on dashboards, you can actually get questions, ask questions in natural language and get governed and secure answers from AI. It tailors responses to your business domain. So the insights are relevant and context aware. It's not just pulling answers from thin air. It's using your curated data assets as a foundation. So users can also then openly engage in Q&A directly with enterprise data. Genie actually remembers the conversation thread, so you can pick up where you left off. Users will receive responses back in natural language, tabular data, as well as visualizations. So it boasts context-aware intelligence. It isn't actually answering your questions in isolation. It will actually have full awareness of your data and queries within your dashboard. So meaning it can actually leverage all the context to deliver very relevant answers that are tailored to your specific business environment. You don't have to translate all of your questions into technical jargon. It gets smarter over time with user behavior and feedback, so your insights actually become even more accurate and relevant, meaning essentially the more you use Genie, the smarter it's going to get. If it isn't sure of the right answer, it will actually proactively seek clarification from the user to refine its understanding and also avoid risk of hallucination or incorrect responses. And finally, its AI-generated insights are also governed and secured by Unity Catalog. Every query, whether it's through dashboards or Genie, is enforced by Unity Catalog's access policies. So users can only see the data that they're authorized to access. There's also built-in monitoring to make sure that every question and response is reviewed. You can give it a thumbs up, thumbs down, or feedback that will actually, again, help to improve the accuracy over time. Right, so Genie can actually run inside tools, so things like dashboards or external applications that people are already used to at work. So there's no need for you to switch platforms or change routines. If someone needs focused Q&A, they can actually use dedicated Genie spaces set up by the data team. It's also built into AI BI dashboards, so users can ask follow-up questions within the reports itself. And also for broader access, Genie can connect with external applications through its API, meaning that you can integrate it with tools like Slack or Teams that are used every day. So people don't really have to change the way they work day to day in order to use Genie. All right, so without further ado, let me share my screen and I'll hopefully be able to bring up a demo for everyone. All right, let me know when everyone can see that. Yeah. Awesome. So this is what a Genie room or a Genie space is going to look like. I've built one that sort of mirrors what a council might want to do when it comes to looking and interrogating finance allocation and resource optimization. So I built a couple of data sets based on maybe things like annual budget allocation, looking at things like service demand outcomes, and over time, what budget variance or revenues come through for different major projects, how you can use that to allocate things like your resource and workforce allocation, very pertinent and relevant to what AJ had described before. So this is a Genie room. Again, you can think about it as a chatbot that's very much trained and specialized on your data and your semantics. So on the right-hand side, what I've done is I've built in and brought in a couple of tables that we've used for that pertain to a lot of this financial data. You might extract this from your ERP systems, you might extract this from Oracle or SAP, for example, and collected them over time. Again, I brought this in entirely from Unity Catalog. You might be seeing a theme here, but a lot of things that, a lot of the way that features operate on Databricks, it requires Unity Catalog to be that point of entry, meaning that you always get that governance, control, and access embedded into everything that you use. What you do when you set up a Genie space, again, is that you bring in things like this data. You also provided instructions, general instructions on how this Genie room can be used. I haven't actually provided anything at this stage, but in the description here, you can see that we're using this Genie room for users to be able to interact with these data sets and actually explore and model the financial position and resource allocation for a local council. Right? So it will use, again, things like the budget, the spending, the revenue, and service data. So maybe someone who, the likes of a business analyst who has questions about data that they can't actually find answers to in a pre-baked or pre-built dashboard. They can actually come to a Genie room and ask questions about, maybe different areas of concern that they might have. So I'm going to ask Genie a question. I'm going to ask it to display revenue trends by its source. So give me things like the rates, the grants, the fees, and fines across the last 3 years. What it will do is it will return 3 things. Right, so it's thinking for a bit. It's actually going to give me back a summary of the question I've been asking, the result set of it below, and also an accompanying visualization where it actually sees it fit. Right? So it's actually given me a very comprehensive answer. Told me that revenue from rates had peaked in 2003 and it's dropped sharply in 2024. It's given me back that result set as well on the actual data that's come through from the data sets that I've added here in the Genie room, and finally a visualization that I can also edit. So it's given me back a line graph, and if I decide that perhaps a line graph is not how I want to represent it, I can choose to have it in the bar or pie chart as well. So the nice thing about this is that I've asked it a natural language question. It's responded back to me in natural language in a way that's very understandable for the likes of someone who maybe can't write the SQL or doesn't have the time to be able to produce results like this because I don't know the domain. I don't have that depth of domain knowledge for the data set that underpins this Genie room. But if I do, I can actually break glass and look at the code that's been generated under the hood. So this is a text to SQL capability that will sort of translate a lot of the natural language that I've asked into SQL that sort of makes sense in the context of the data. Right. So I'm going to go a little bit further and then actually ask it another question. So I'm going to ask it about the variance in forecasted and actuals for a lot of programs that I've run, perhaps. Right. So again, it's going to go off and think. It's going to be able to tell me, again, the analysis on the data set that it's performed on, the natural language answer on whether it's identified significant variance between spending across all programs. And again, it's going to return that result set below, and also an accompanying visualization that you might be interested in as well. So ultimately, I think what Genie is able to provide is that conversational self-service analytics capability for a lot of councils that I think really sometimes struggle to find the time and struggle to find the resources to be able to then build a lot of these data sets together. Genie rooms can also integrate with the likes of dashboarding, as we talked about. So if you've pre-baked a dashboard and you already have data sets that you've curated, Genie can actually, with our AI system under the hood, glean a lot of the information and make context-driven answers and reasoning based on the semantics that you've provided as well. So that's it in a nutshell. And without further ado, I'm going to flick it over to Danny, who will be talking on the geospatial analytics capabilities that exist on the platform. All right, over to you, Danny.
Thanks. Thank you, Pam. So my name is Danny Wong. So I'm a solution architect, same team as Pam, also supporting public sector clients. So today I'm going to share with you an overview of geospatial processing, geospatial analytics on Databricks, especially focusing on council's use cases. So I guess Janita and Pam gave us an overview of Lakehouse. So on Databricks Lakehouse, what we are trying to do is to consolidate all the data platform into a single one, and then you can analyze data no matter that is structure, unstructured, geo or non-geo. So for us, geospatial data is just another data type. You can govern the same way using Unity Catalog. You can process the same way using the Spark engine. And on the platform itself, two common use case, if you got data from your source systems like ArcGIS as an example, or other geospatial sources, you can use Databricks for ETL. So you can transform the data, you can clean the data, you can transform that from one projection systems to the other by using the Spark parallel processing engine. So that like if you got a huge amount of data, you can run that at scale. And the other capability on the Lakehouse is the spatial SQL feature. So this is a new addition to the platform, which gives you off-the-shelf capability to run a lot of geospatial functions, which we call ST function. So say, for example, like if you want to find out what are the assets within a particular suburbs or council boundary, basically you can use that ST function for that. And in the latest release, we also introduced the geospatial types as well, which basically helps you to store the data in a very efficient format. So in terms of size and in terms of speed as well. And we also got H3 indexing. So this is hexagonal indexing systems that help you to index the complex geometry object into numbers. So if we can get combine those numbers by joining those tables using that H3 index, that will also help us to run all those geospatial joins in a very efficient manner. So Spatial SQL is a new capability that it is currently in public preview now. So you can use it, you can try it, you can test it. The only requirement is if you are running classic Databricks runtime, the requirement is 17.1 or above. If you're using serverless, there's no issue for that at all. You can use it in a notebook environment. You can also use it for SQL as well. So we got more than 80 spatial functions, ST functions support in this release. And we also got H3 indexing as well. You can index your geometry into a single data model with H3, and then you can use that for complex spatial join, especially useful when you are dealing with a huge amount of data. So I think three compelling reasons why Databricks for geospatial. First of all, with the H3 approach, you can combine a large volume of data in a very short amount of time. The second thing is like we support large amount of like different different formats. So say for example, like you might getting data from shapefiles, from GeoJSON, or from external GIS tools like ArcGIS as an example. So we support all this common geospatial format. And at the end of the day, I think compliance and governance is the key. If we can do all this geospatial processing on the same platform, you can govern the spatial and non-spatial data all using Unity Catalog. Using the same permission model, you will get all the audit trail, etc., to keep your data safe. So Pam talked a bit on Genie. That is our conversation interface. You can ask natural language questions, and it also supports geospatial. So you can ask geospatial questions. We can show point map on Genie, and you can also use Genie outside of Databricks environment as well. So if you prefer to use it in Microsoft Teams as an example, you can also run it there. So and we also support more complex visualization with Databricks apps. So Databricks apps is a capability that you can host your Python applications or React front end on Databricks. And with that, you can have more complex visualization. You can have your own branding. You can custom the end user experience as well. Instead of like worrying about spinning up some VM somewhere or like spinning up your Kubernetes clusters, you don't have to worry about that. You just simply develop, write the code, and then leave the heavy lifting for us. We will host that for you. So some of the use case, this is a use case with Osro. So in their situation, they have a lot of heavy vehicle that is streaming and sending that telematics data live is a real-time streaming use case. So what they are trying to do is to use Databricks for quality checks to make sure that the data that is coming in is in good quality and exclude those bad data. And then they want to do some spatial matching by matching the vehicle location on state, on LGA, locality, road. This is all done in real time. and then they would like to create some aggregation, some reporting from that, and then write it back to ArcGIS for visualization. So GIS tools like ArcGIS is very good at spatial visualization. So that's why we are the one doing those like processing, cleaning, joining, and then we are just writing back the results back to tools like ArcGIS for visualization. So this is one of the use case, real-time use case by Osro using Databricks for geospatial processing. The other example is permit assessment. So I guess right now for planning applications, the planning officers may have to check a few things from different systems, different maps to see like whether there's any overlays for that particular address. If we can provide a scalable platform for the planning officers to ask questions to see whether that address is within a particular overlay zones, that will also help to reduce the assessment time and then make the decision and application process time a lot quicker. And this is another example, like I'm trying to map some of the household address with the flood zone. So this is the flood data that I've got from the public WakeGov website. So this is a 2022 flood zones. So if I want to try to map the address with the flood zones, we can do all this processing on Databricks and then finding all the address there so that you can proactively alert the citizen within those areas on the potential flood rates. So I think integration is the key because in the geospatial world, there's a lot of different partners, a lot of different toolings. So for us, we're working very closely with all these geospatial partners like Kato, for an example. They can connect directly to Databricks. S3 is commonly used by a lot of councils and government agencies. So we got integration with them. So we can read data from S3 feature service layer. We can also write it back to S3 for visualization. Common tooling like FME, which is geospatial ETL tools, they can read data from Databricks. They can also write data back to us as well. So in terms of integration with S3, there's a number of integration patterns, pretty dependent on the use case. If you are reading data accord from ArcGIS from a feature service layer, you can use the ArcGIS API. We also offer a lakehouse federation capability, which you can talk to the geodatabase at the backend to read data. And on Databricks right now, we also got a lake-based offering. So this is a managed PostgreSQL. So if you are using PostGIS today, it's just an easy lift and shift to lake-based, which we will manage the infrastructure for you. And you just simply enable the PostGIS extension, and then you can use lake-based for transactional geospatial use case. S3 also offer a tooling called GeoAnalytics Engine. It's a more advanced tools that if you want to use some of the ArcGIS desktop tooling in a Python world, try to parallelize it on the Spark clusters, then GeoAnalytics Engine is a tool that is pretty handy that you can calculate like the origin destination matrix. You can create like a service area, things like that. And of course, like if you're using FME today, as I shared in the last slide, FME allows you to read write data from us, and you can also use JDBC to connect to S3 as well. So these are some of the common integration patterns. So before I hand off to Will, I will probably just very quickly share my screen to share a quick demo. Desktop. Okay, so I'm not going to show any code. So I just simply show some visualization. So this is a data set that I've got from the WakeGov websites on accidents, Victorian accidents. So you can see like on the AI/BI dashboard, you can easily put together a graph based on your geospatial data. So in this case, I got all this point data, which is indicating the number of accidents. So the color itself is the different is indicating different LGAs, and the bubble size is talking about the number of accidents there. And as Pam shared, we can also integrate with Genie as well. So basically, you can ask questions here on the data that you've got. And for other type of visualization, you can also do that on the notebook as well. So there's another option. So in this case, the base map here, I'm using WebMap, which is offered by Department of Transport and Planning. And then on top of that, I am just trying to find out what are the road infrastructure, like signals, roundabouts, as an example, which is the red dots, which is within this polygon. So for this particular processing, if we are using H3, it's really, really quick. So the size is quite big. Basically, I just got the entire data set from the government website, but it only takes around 3 seconds to run this query. So with that, you can easily find out like all the area of interest that is within a particular boundary. And you can also do things like a more advanced use case as well. So in this case, the green dots is the accident spots. If I want to find out where is the nearest police station, um, at the backend, I'm using a routing engine that find out the shortest path from the police station to the accident spot. And it will also tell me like the distance and also the travel time as well. So this is another example that we can do it pretty easily on the Databricks platform.